Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay, that's absolutely great. My name is Dr. Sylvia, and we are live on TikTok. Yes, hi, TikTok. And then we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So hello. Usually my live streams hold on a Sunday evening, early evening, but things happened as they do. And I just want to make sure I get this live off today. Otherwise, I won't be able to do so. And I'm particularly committed to the current series that we're running around fibroids and the most effective natural ways for shrinking fibroids. So that's what we're doing. And we had last week, we're talking all about diet, and I did hold the TikTok live. I don't know what happened to it because I think I ran out of phone battery, and something similar might happen today, but we are getting there. We are getting to be more effective on TikTok. So hi to my usual compadres on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. How have you guys been doing? I hope everybody's been well. I hope the beginning of the week hasn't been too stressful. So my name is Dr. Sylvia. I am a general practitioner, consultant in general practice based in the United Kingdom, and I love talking about everything that relates to our health, particularly to women's health and sexual and reproductive health. And like I said, we started a series, a 7-part series last week, Sunday, and we managed to go through issues around diet. And I hope as many of you have watched it, have found it useful. Thank you so much for those who commented and who contributed their thoughts. And I think there's still some questions coming through on the video, which I promise I will respond to. It's just that there have been quite a few things going on. Please give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. And if you're just joining, hi BX. Thank you so much for joining. I would love to hear your thoughts about vitamin D and fibroids. But thank you so much for joining. I'm pleased that you're here. Before we get into it, many people probably haven't met me before. I also, apart from practicing as a GP, I also run AskAwayHealth, which is both a health information service, a blog, and of course a YouTube channel. And I'm on all other social media platforms and discussing various aspects of women's health. So not just fibroids. We did a lot of work on menopause awareness just last month. We talk about endometriosis and PCOS and birth control, contraception. So if you're curious or if you want to have more information about these things from an evidence-based practitioner, like I said, I'm based here in the United Kingdom, and then please hop over. You're welcome to join any of our communities on the website or the blog and on YouTube and the different community setups that we have. It will be great to have you as well. Hello to Ned. Hot Step. I apologize if I've butchered that. I'm so sorry. But hi to those joining from TikTok and hi to my friends from YouTube. I'll just quickly share my screen for those of you guys on YouTube and Facebook, because I want you to know where to find AskAwayHealth. So this is the blog, which hopefully you can see. Yeah, this is our blog page. So weekly, every couple of days, we do refresh that with lots of helpful health information that I think you would find particularly interesting and relevant. So please check it out. And apart from that, there is the email health information service, which if you come to the front page or the home page of the same website, AskAwayHealth, you will find the email health information service just right there in the middle. If you want to have a conversation or just want to check something about your health, send me a question. Click on that blue button over there and we will be able to connect. Okay, so that's just by way of letting you know what else that we're doing. So let's get into the meat of the matter. We're talking about vitamin D and its role in fibroids. And hopefully from the topic or the title of the video, on TikTok, I just said vitamin D and fibroids because I didn't have much space. But on the other platforms, I did say that I wanted us to look at why vitamin D, how it's of benefit for fibroids, doses and myths and so on. So of course, if you've got any questions, please feel free to join in. Thank you so much, Agatha, for joining. Hi, LIOLI. Hi, SWA86. Hi, Blackburn. Thank you so much for joining. You guys are all very much welcome. Thank you. Please give this video a like as well. So Vitamin D, very important, very, very important. And it is a hot topic at the moment. Gina, I'm going to make sure I'm going to try and make sure I do this before my charger runs out. And next time I will not do that. I know I said that last week, but please bear with me. Okay, so vitamin D, as we're probably all familiar with, is a fat-soluble vitamin, okay? And it's processed the same way that fat is in the body. There are other fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, but vitamin D is one of the fat-soluble vitamins. And usually if you're taking vitamin D, for it to absorb very well, some think that it's good to take it with a meal that contains healthy fats. Now, primarily what it does and what we've known it to do, certainly for several years, is that it promotes your body's ability to absorb calcium and phosphorus into the body, which help in the development and growth and maintaining the health of your bones. So for calcium, phosphorus, or phosphates, it primarily supports bone health. However, we know from work that has happened more recently, maybe in the last 20 years, that it is essential, if not crucial, really, for other important activities or things going on in the body. For example, helping with the heart health. For example, helping with inflammation. And inflammation, watch that word, because that is why we are talking about it in terms of its relationship to fibroids. So we now know that vitamin D is also crucial for other parts of the body, like the heart, helping to reduce inflammation. And in fact, many of our body cells and tissues, so not just bone, that's what we're trying to get away from here. It's not just bone. Many of the tissues in our body also have vitamin D receptors, which means they will allow vitamin D to come in and act as a messenger to help to carry out important activities. So whether it is to create a new protein that will help to build more tissues, or whether it is to help to create DNA, or whether it is to help to manage inflammation, whatever it is, different processes that vitamin D is involved with, and it will result in growth of the cell. It can affect muscle, nerves, it affects the immune system as well, and it helps in blood sugar. So there's a lot that vitamin D is doing. You guys probably heard about how the conversation around vitamin D also came up during COVID, when we realized that people with low vitamin D levels actually experience more COVID-related problems. So telling you that it's a lot more than just bone health, but this is a very important vitamin. So let's keep that in mind as we talk about fibroids in a few seconds. So where do you get your vitamin D from? Let me see. So guys, don't forget to give it a like. I just want to make sure I'm saying hi to people. Thank you, BX, for liking. Really appreciate that. Hi, Mr. Perfect. Thank you for joining. Please don't forget to ask a question. Really important. If you want to join the conversation, please feel free to pop something in the chat and let me know. Same here for you guys, my friends on Facebook and on YouTube and LinkedIn. But I'll crack on. You guys know that from time to time, I will look at the chat, and if any questions going on there, I will take them. Okay, so in terms of where we get vitamin D, or what are the sources of vitamin D, let's start from the types of vitamin D. So we recognize vitamin D3 and we recognize vitamin D2, which you may also know as D3 is cholecalciferol, or vitamin D2 ergocalciferol. Now, vitamin D is produced in different ways, or you can get it from different ways. So most commonly and naturally through our skin, from the effect of UVB, ultraviolet B rays, in particular from the sunlight acting on our skin. So that's the simple, natural way that we can get vitamin D. But you can also get vitamin D from different types of foods. For example, as you can see on my background, for my friends on Facebook and YouTube and so on, you can get it from oily fish, you can get it from milk and dairy, leafy greens and so on. So that is also a source of vitamin D. You can also get it from fortified foods. So in some countries like the UK, the US, vitamin D is added during food production or processing to make sure that people are able to get enough vitamin D. So thank you so much, guys, for liking and for following. Hi, BX. Thank you so much. Number one, thank you so much for following. I'm really thrilled by this kind of funny colors and things going on here. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And of course, there's supplements. So we've talked about sunlight, we've talked about food, and then and the next source is from supplements. So you can go out into your health shop and you can buy vitamin D supplements. Okay, so vitamin D2 and D3 are inactive, biologically inactive. So they're not really doing anything in the body until they are converted into the active form. So whether you're getting your vitamin D2 or 3, excuse me, from sunlight, food, supplements, whichever way, they're all inactive until they get into the body. And by chemical processes in the liver and then the kidney, they are converted to the active forms, which is the 125 dihydroxyvitamin D. So just in case you see that in your reading or, come across, if you're looking at, some document or having some conversation and they mention that that's also known as calcitriol, and it's the physiologically active form of D3 or vitamin D. So what we're trying to do now is just set the stage and just sort of give a bit of background. We will definitely talk about vitamin D and fibroids in a couple of minutes. So most of us can maintain adequate vitamin D levels by exposure to the sun and by our diet. Most, I said. And please, if you leave this live stream, by the time we finish with anything, it is that while vitamin D is good, it's effective, and we are aware of its properties, I think a lot of the narrative I'm getting is that there's some confusion about how much of it to take and how much is normal or not. And I want to emphasize the fact that we're all different in the way that we metabolize or process the vitamin. And so different levels, some people talk about taking a very high level, some people talk about lower levels, and whether it's right or wrong. I think what's coming out from the literature is that it's actually difficult to be able to determine which levels are what a standard level is from one person to the other. That's what's coming out in the literature, because we will have, and we're going to go into this in a moment, you have levels that are recommended by our our health organizations, our health bodies in different countries. And then you have studies that indicate that people can use higher levels and have no problems with it. But what I want to say to that, and I'm saying it early because some people might start here and then leave and then, not watch everything to the end, is that even though you watch a video and somebody says to you, oh, I can take X thousand international units of vitamin D and it's fine, it doesn't cause any problems, that might not be the same for you. You really need to think about this, think about your health. It's really, really important to consider that. So BX says, I have PCOS and struggling with fertility. I've been advised to start taking vitamin D. Is this okay? So it all depends on not just the fact that you have PCOS, it also depends on other aspects of your medical health. And I usually start with what is your current vitamin D level? Are you deficient? Because it's important to identify that. Vitamin D is good for all of us. Everybody should have adequate supplies of vitamin D. And we're all on different levels on that platform, all of us. So if your vitamin D levels are low, then that needs to be treated. If they are not, if they're sort of adequate, you need to maintain it, because yes, vitamin D is good. It will support all the different activities that you need to both boost your reproductive health, boost your fertility. Yeah, so it will be good for those particular reasons. So I think what is good for UBX, sit down, please, have a conversation with your practitioner. If you need to have a blood test done to identify what your level, go ahead and have it so that they can decide, how much you should will be good for you. But if you're asking, is it good for you to have vitamin D? Absolutely, yes. It's an essential, really essential vitamin. So thank you so much for that question. Really useful. It's a good place for me to just make sure I let you know. I put a disclaimer out. I forgot. I usually do it, but guys, you're providing this video for educational purposes, not intended to replace any advice from your own regular practitioner. I always say, please go back and sit down with your own practitioner, because they know your medical background. They can sort of make any conversation or any decision based on your medical background. But here we can definitely have conversations. We can point you in the right directions, the kind of questions to ask to make sure you're getting the right kind of support from them. So thank you so much for that question again. Right, so let's talk about sunlight exposure and vitamin D. Well, before that, let's look at people, and I'm so glad the export of that, because many of us actually have low or could be at having low vitamin D, where your doctor might say, oh, you have insufficient or inadequate levels, or they might even say you're vitamin D deficient. So these are two different terms that both of them are saying to us that your vitamin D levels are low. Being vitamin D deficient means that your levels are a lot lower, while insufficient is within a particular group. It's not as bad as deficient, but it shouldn't be. We need to improve it. So that's the difference. And I will show a slide on that in a moment. But there's some people who tend to be more likely to have low vitamin D levels, and those are the young children or young infants, because they don't have the mechanism yet to be able to develop their own vitamin D. So they would rely on the supply from their mom through breast milk or from the infant formula milk that they're getting, and so on. So it's good to be aware of that. Then there's the elderly people who are also deficient, because for the same reason, the mechanism or the systems for either absorbing vitamin D from the sunlight to the skin or from food is not as effective as it was. So they're also at risk, or they might have other medical conditions that make it difficult to, capture vitamin D as they should. Then, of course, many people will know about the issue with dark skin, being dark skinned like me, or people with darker skin tones than me that have trouble with vitamin D and having low vitamin D levels. And it's simply that we are at a higher risk of low vitamin D or vitamin D deficiency because our skin is not as effective at that manufacture, when the ultraviolet B light gets under the skin, and that mechanism or that chemical process that converts the vitamin D into the forms that it's needed to activate in the body, we're not as effective as getting that done as people with paler skin. So that has implications for people of African origin or Afro-Caribbean, African American, Asian, South Asian families, really anybody with darker toned skin. So it's good to bear that in mind, because generally what it means is that you probably, if you're looking at your sunlight exposure, might need to spend a bit more time in the sun for your vitamin D supply. But while we say that, please let us balance that with safe sun exposure, because being excessively exposed to the sun has its own issues, skin burning, the risk of skin cancer and all that. So it's really important to bear it in mind. Of course, other people that could be at risk of low vitamin D can be from people that wear clothes that cover up most of the body, people that are housebound, for example, they don't get to come out of the house at all for one reason or the other. It could be illness, it could be different things. Somebody who's not able to absorb vitamin D from the gut. So even after you've eaten foods that have natural sources of vitamin D, or even that is fortified, your body simply can't process it properly. You can't absorb it well through the gut. It might be from some type of malabsorption condition, or, for example, if there's an inflammatory bowel disease going on that affects the ability to properly absorb the vitamin D. Other people that could be at risk are those after weight loss surgery, somebody who's overweight as well, because funny enough, we said, yeah, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, but if somebody is very overweight, the vitamin D can be trapped in your fat, in the adipose means fat, in the fat tissues, and hold it there, hold the vitamin D there, instead of releasing it into the blood where it's needed to be able to do its job, go around the body and do its job. So that's the problem with being overweight or being obese and vitamin D. That's how it could affect and lead to low vitamin D levels. And there are certain drugs or medicines like epilepsy drugs or antacids, some steroid tablets that people are taking at the same time that could affect their vitamin D or could increase their risk of low vitamin D. Something else is antiretroviral treatment, so treatment for HIV. It's important for somebody who is pregnant or breastfeeding. I mentioned infants earlier, so really important for moms who are pregnant or breastfeeding, because your body is demanding more vitamin D. You're doing so much more in your pregnancy, so your body is demanding more vitamin D, not just for your own body process, but for your baby who's not mature enough to get its own vitamin D. So your supply, what you need, needs to cover both yourself and the baby. And if you're not getting enough, both you and the baby are at risk of low vitamin D. So we'll sort of run through possible scenarios. This doesn't specifically have to do with fibroids, I know, but just run through possible scenarios. But another question that I think is really important and people sometimes ask is, how do I know if I've got low vitamin D? Sometimes there are no symptoms for low having low vitamin D levels. To be fair, for symptoms to develop, sometimes you really have to have very, very low levels, which we don't want people to get to that point. But sometimes you might actually have insufficient or even vitamin D deficiency, and you don't show any symptoms. So most people don't, but if symptoms develop, it can be things like feeling very tired, of course, bone pain, because the effect on bone, the increased risk of having fractures. It can affect the mood. I don't think I even mentioned it when I was talking about what vitamin D does in the body. I mentioned the heart, I mentioned chronic inflammation, I mentioned bones, but it could potentially affect our cognition, thinking. It could even affect our mood as well. And so depression could be a feature of low vitamin D. Being unable to mobilize as well could be issues. So let me just say a quick hi to guys that are just joining in. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining in here and your interest in the subject. Please give this video a thumbs up. That would be much appreciated. Hi to Zoe. Hi to Amwakwa Judith. Hi to Keys. Keys? Let me know if I got that right or wrong. And Anita, hi guys, thank you so much. And to everybody who's just sort of popped in to see what we're talking about, thank you. Please like the video, and same to you troopers over on YouTube, LinkedIn and Facebook. All right, so we can detect if your vitamin D levels are low or not. We can do a blood test. So this is not something that we have to sort of wonder and, quibble about. We can do blood tests if you are concerned. As many people with fibroid, given the conversation that is going on around fibroid and vitamin D, or if you have symptoms or other issues that might put you at a risk of having low vitamin D, then, you can have a blood test. Usually, the blood test is for the 25 hydroxy vitamin D levels, and that's what usually will be checked in the blood test. The 125, which is the active form, usually leaves the blood very quickly, so not a very reliable marker for the blood test. So what are normal vitamin D levels? And they can change from place to place. Another thing I really want to emphasize for us is that it can vary from place to place and from person to person. I'm going to share this for my guys on is it this one? Hang on. Let me share this yeah, okay. So that I'm just sharing a slide for my friends on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And these are, I just pulled the US and the UK. And if I have time, I would pull up levels from, the other parts of the world, like, maybe Australia, New Zealand, maybe Nigeria, Ghana, and just, what their levels are like, and put it on my community post so that if you're interested, you can see. It can be slightly different, just slightly. It's not a huge difference, but you might see different numbers and wonder what's going on. And, to be fair, I wouldn't quibble. But anyway, let me just quickly go to the slide for those who can see it. So at the top, you have deficient levels. It can be measured, that vitamin D levels can be measured in either nanomole per liter or nanogram per milliliter. Let's stick to nanomole per liter because you have those numbers for both US and UK. And if you look at my slide, you can see there's just a slight difference. So if you're deficient, your levels are less than 30 in the US, and in the UK less than 25. If you're insufficient, which is not as bad as deficient, your levels are between 30 and 50 nanomole per liter, while UK says your levels are between 25 and 50. And when we say your levels are sufficient, if you're more than 50 nanomole per liter, and that's the same for both US and UK. Now, so US also gives and this data is from the National Institute of Health fact sheet in the US and the clinical knowledge summaries in the United Kingdom as well. Now, US gives data or gives numbers for potentially or possibly harmful levels of vitamin D, and it says above 125 nanomole per liter could possibly be harmful. So let me just say, well, I know that people are going to shout and say, well, no, this person said that or that person said that, because there are lots of different positions. Before I did this, I actually sat down and looked, because we have recommendations that we work by. And if somebody comes to meet me in the surgery, this is what I'm going to be saying to them in terms of their vitamin D levels. But you're going to come across people who say, oh, somebody has levels of 100 and this and 100 and that, and they seem fine. I would just simply repeat to them that they are not you. So please be careful before you rush after somebody else's levels, because what is suitable for you will depend on your age, your particular medical history, how well you metabolize vitamin D. Are you pregnant, breastfeeding, all sorts of different things. Don't parcel yourself into the same group as somebody else. Okay. So we're talking about normal vitamin D levels, and I've just shown you what it can look like. And so that is there as a guide. And I think it's when you come to how much you should take, it will depend on what your needs are, how well you're feeling or not, what particular conditions we're looking to treat. Okay, so thank you so much to guys that are joining in from YouTube, LinkedIn. Hi to Maria Gibb. Hello from South Africa. How are you doing? What time is it over there at the moment? Thank you so much for catching this stream. Let me know your thoughts around fibroids and vitamin D. Any questions, any myths, any concerns? Okay, so let's talk about fibroids and vitamin D. So there is research, you know, sometimes I come and tell you guys, well, we don't really know, we don't have any data. We actually have data. I'm just pulling your leg. Anyway, so there is usually data, and there is a way that we interpret the data. It's just that we have to be careful and avoid making things general. And even though we have some data, we can always do with more. It's not, I think a lot of these studies are not completely representative of everyone, but at least it gives us a point of view. It gives us some hope that we've got other things that can help us understand better about fibroids. Fibroids, as you know, are benign growths from the womb. Okay. What causes fibroids? We don't know one specific thing that causes fibroids. However, we know that, of course, it's very strongly linked with abnormal hormone balance, particularly estrogen and progesterone being implicated. But we know that there are so many other things, your genes, your environment, chronic inflammation that could lead to things like being overweight, stress, type of diet, endocrine disrupting chemicals. All these things sort of play into how people or one person develops fibroids and the other person doesn't. We're not exactly sure each mechanism. We're just figuring out that, oh, this is involved and could potentially be why. That is involved as well. This is involved. So like I said, more studies needed. Anyway, so studies have been telling us that vitamin D3 supplements may effectively reduce the risk of fibroids. So I know that's not new for many of you, you know, very active researchers. But the reason it potentially can do that, if you remember, I talked in the beginning about how many cells in our body, not just the bones, have receptors for vitamin D. So it's able to go into the body to do quite a few things. So it can shrink fibroids. It can act as a powerful antifibrotic agent. It can reduce the cell's ability to make collagen, which is a lot of what fibroid is comprised of, and also affect other fibroid promoting factors in the womb. So this effect apparently increases with higher doses. And, you know, when that is said, it begs the question, okay, so people with fibroids, shouldn't they be having higher doses of vitamin D? And I accept that. But again, more studies to tell us, you know, what are these higher doses, what is safe, and so on. And higher doses than the doses we need to maintain bone health is what this is referring to. Thank you so much, everybody who's joining in fresh. Thank you so much. I see new names coming in. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Please give this video a like. That'll be much appreciated. And okay, the other thing it does is that it shrinks the size of fibroids by reducing the level of proteins related to estrogen, that will help estrogen production. So it's anti-estrogen, it has anti-progesterone effects as well. And the other thing it can do, yes, it can affect the DNA repair process. So in terms of different cell changes or mutations that can develop, that can happen in a cell, which will lead to fibroid being formed, the vitamin D suppresses those kind of activities by ensuring that the DNA, the gene proteins are well established, that they develop well, there are no mutations and so on. So these are some of the ways that vitamin D3, you know, I talked about chronic inflammation. It's also important in preventing the effect of chronic inflammation. So these are ways that vitamin D3 actually is effective in terms of fibroid tumors. This is how it works. This is what we know from studies. And specifically, they tell us, you know, they've got studies from India, Turkey, Italy, and China showing pretty much similar findings that women with fibroids had significantly lower levels of vitamin D3 than women without fibroids, with a higher proportion of severe vitamin D deficiency among those with fibroids. So I'm reading directly from some findings that I sort of put together, their summaries, and this is basically what they were saying. A particular Italian study showed that if you increase vitamin D levels by providing women with vitamin D supplements, those women who had fibroids, it reduced their need for having surgery or other medical interventions. I mean, isn't that exciting? I think that is amazing in terms of what the potential that vitamin D would mean. So for somebody who has fibroids, one of your critical treatment things or quick treatment, the important things that we should be saying. Oh, wow. Hi. Okay. Hi, Maria. So sorry to cut you. Maria is saying she's 2 hours later than the UK. And okay, you're talking about HRT. Sure, Maria, we can have a conversation about that. And yeah, we can definitely look into it. Listen, you can send me a message via the email information service. It's on my website. I don't want to get dragged away from the conversation around fibroids, but you're very much welcome to send this in later on via the email service, and we can look into it together. Okay, just conscious that I might lose my guys on TikTok pretty soon, so I'm going to be rounding up shortly. But what the other thing that's really important, I know, is how much vitamin D should you take. So I want to bring up a study. I have done a video on this study before, so some of you might be familiar with it. I've talked about this already, vitamin D sources, safe exposure. I might go back to this for guys later on. But there is a study, I'm not sure if I've got it here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, yes, it is here. I did. So there is a study, it's an Italian study. So let me just take Maria's. Yeah, so there's an Italian study. So guys on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, you should see. Guys on TikTok, my apologies, I'll read it out. But there was a study, and if you go to my YouTube channel, AskAwayHealth with Dr. Sylvia, I have 2 fibroid playlists. They've got loads and loads of fibroid videos. If you search for the green tea and fibroid study, you will find this information. So anyway, they did a study looking at, it's a very small study to be fair, 16 subjects, women with fibroids. These women were a bit older, so there are some of the downsides to the study and the question of whether, well, will this apply to other women? But let's talk about what they found. So women with these types of fibroids, both the intramural fibroids and the subserosal fibroids are about 3 centimeters or less, were the ones that tended to have more impact. Anyway, so they gave them green tea with epigallocatechin gallate, 300 milligrams daily, vitamin B6, 10 milligram daily, vitamin D, 2,000 units daily for 3 months, 90 days. And they found they had, on average, okay, so it may differ from one woman to the next, but on average, 37% reduction in the size of their fibroids and reduced length of menstrual flow. So they did that study, they found this information, which was encouraging. It's really exciting, that you can actually get this kind of result from taking this combination, because it's probably a combination of the effect of vitamin D, B6, and the green tea, EGCG, in this that brought about this effect. So the question is, okay, so how much should you have? I always start, like I said to BX at the beginning, what is your level? What's your vitamin D level? It is clear that women with fibroids, will do better having normal vitamin D. And we are seeing that actually quite a few of them, or majority of them have low vitamin D. And I remember somebody asked a question saying, for women, for example, who live in tropical areas, like in parts of Africa where there is a very, very high rate of fibroids, how come, since they're exposed to the sun, how come they have low vitamin D levels? And so what I want to say is that simply because you live in a tropical country where the sun is shining for several hours a day doesn't necessarily mean that you would have normal vitamin D, because there are so many different reasons. For example, people might not always spend time in the sun at the right time of the day. Remember what I said about our melanin skin not being able to process vitamin D as effectively as lighter skin. People might be wearing types of clothing or have different sunscreen or whatever that might reduce the absorption of vitamin D. There's also the possibility, something just flashed on my TikTok. It's so distracting. Anyway, there's also the possibility that there may be conditions, that people have that prevents them from processing the vitamin D. So I've got someone say, I don't know your name. It says user and a very long number, but it says my vitamin D level is 20. I'm very, very low. I was born in Jamaica, but now living in the UK. Oh, so that it does need to be replaced. You do need to, you know, your GP probably has put you on some kind of replacement, high dose replacement for 6 weeks or so is our usual process, and then maintenance. But please make sure you follow up, make sure you're getting the right amount. It's really important, not just with relation to fibroids. So thank you for sharing that. And it's, you know, it's not something that we think about. And remember that many people don't have any symptoms, so you don't necessarily think that there is something wrong per se. Oh yes, and she's come back. Absolutely, your doctor gave you 50,000 exactly. So you should have that. There's a particular regime, you have that for a period of time, which is meant to replace and push you up to the right level, and then you stay on a maintenance. And then, you know, you can have a blood test usually 3 to 6 months after to make sure that your levels are good, and then you continue, because you're, you know, like me, probably at risk of, if you don't do anything, of low levels. You may not get enough from the food that you're eating, and you may not go into the sun as often as you should because of work or so many different reasons that we may not be able to do so. So yeah, you're welcome, and thank you so much for sharing that. You just gave a classic example. Okay. So, and just as she was saying, just as they were saying, I've got it on my notes here. For example, to treat vitamin D deficiency here in the UK, at least, what we do is a 6-week course of 50,000 units every week, and then after that, a maintenance dose. And what is that maintenance dose? Usually between 800 to 2,000 units. It varies, but it could be between 800 to 2,000 units a day. I'm just looking for where I have it written down. Sorry, I'm just all over the place today. So this is like in terms of maintenance, between 800 to 2,000 units for adults. Why is it such a big gap? How much do I take? Should I take 800? Should I take 1,000? Should I take 2,000? Because we're all different, you understand? You might metabolize and process vitamin D different to the way I do. That's why there's such a wide discrepancy amongst us. So guys, I think there are a few things that we can say about it. And I think that was a really great place for all my friends on TikTok to actually come into it. And I think we're going to be closing it on here, if I can actually find how to do that, because I don't want this to just suddenly stop. And if I can't find it, then maybe what it means is that next time I will just yeah, I can't find it. Well, the only reason I'm just looking is because I know that my phone is going to go down in a minute. So if it does and we get abruptly cut off, I do apologize. And you guys, thank you so much for contributing to the conversation. But yeah, so how much depends on the individual is bottom line what I'm trying to say. You can have 800 units and it's fine. But I think from that study I was displaying earlier, they were using 2,000 units per day, and they got such results from the women with fibroids. If you go and sit down and read that study properly, you will see that the women were of different ages. Many of them were above 35. They had different size fibroids. They may have had other conditions that you necessarily do not have. So you can't exactly say what happened to them will happen to you if you take how much they took, and you'd have the same outcome. It may or it may not. So you have to have that kind of mindset in terms of using the vitamin D and green tea and all that combination. But it's worthwhile having that conversation with your doctor, so that if you are going down this route, it will be under supervision. The amount of vitamin D that you're taking will be under supervision. You'll be well advised or counseled about any possible side effects and what to look out for. Now, some of you will say, oh, what do you mean by the upper limit of 4,000 units per day? Because yeah, there are people who can have 4,000 units per day. That is quite possible. And again, it depends on what the treatment they're supposed to be having. It depends on what their initial levels were, and it's usually under medical supervision to make sure that you don't run the risk of excessive vitamin D. So let me go into that, because is it possible to have to end up with high vitamin D? Yes, it's a fat soluble vitamin. It's not water soluble like vitamin C that, you know, effectively can get flushed out of the system. It's fat soluble. So over time, if you don't metabolize your vitamin D effectively, you may find that you're one of these people. I've just lost TikTok. My phone has gone off. Oh gosh. You may find that you're one of these people who accumulates, and then that can lead to high calcium level, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing for the heart. It's not a good thing generally because it can even make you feel unwell. It's not a good thing for the kidneys. It can lead to kidney problems, can cause kidney stones and so on. So I know there are many people, and I really want to address that because I think it's dangerous for you to come onto a video and say, oh, take this amount of high dose, 50,000 or 40,000 units. I've been doing it for years and I'm fine. Okay, for you. But please don't say that glibly to everybody else, because we all have different ways. We have different medical conditions. Let your dose be determined by a conversation with your practitioner, taking into account your levels, your current levels, any medical problems, any other medication that you're taking, and what is it that we're trying to address. I know that when we're coming to using the vitamin D for fibroids, a different conversation from trying to support for bone health. And again, this is somewhere that we need more studies to help us decide which direction to go. So I hope that doesn't burst people's bubbles, but that is the honest, that's that is, I think, something that is safe. I think that is a way to keep people safe generally. And yes, there could be an argument that the recommended daily amount needs to go up. Fair enough, but we need more studies and probably guidance on which group of people can tolerate high doses of the vitamin D. Now, there is I prepared this, so let me put it up before I forget. I think I've said what's on this slide here. Okay, I've talked about the different ways that we can get vitamin D. We mentioned that at the beginning. We talked about safe sun exposure. For making vitamin D, little and often is best, okay? So in the UK, we suggest 2 or 3 short sunlight exposures per week between April and September are enough to achieve adequate vitamin D levels. During the winter, the body relies on the tissue store. So clearly during the winter where you have less sun, but during the summer, spring into summer in the UK, we're saying that short bursts. So for some people, it may just be 15, 20, even 10, 15 minutes in the sun, because what you want to be careful about is being sunburned. What you want to be careful about is making sure that you're not exposing or burning your skin in the sun and increasing the risk of tissue damage that can lead to cancer. For melanin skin and safe sun, like I've said before, we are at a higher risk of vitamin D deficiency because our skin is just less efficient at making vitamin D. So we're supposed to stay in the sun a little bit longer compared to the amount of time that people with lighter skin will stay. Okay, so please bear that in mind. And the other thing that's useful is, even when you're gotten to a point where your levels are maintained, consider having a, tablet of vitamin D. It recommends 10 micrograms according to the UK guidelines, 10 micrograms of vitamin D throughout the year, just to maintain. So this is just for people generally, not necessarily if you have fibroids. So what are we saying? In terms of fibroids. So we're saying that, yes, we have findings that indicate that people with fibroids, many of them have low vitamin D levels. And there could be a link because we've seen how important vitamin D is in those, in the development of fibroids, in the processing of DNA, in the development of proteins, and that actually it seems to oppose those proteins that help in the development of high estrogen. It seems to oppose those proteins that lead to collagen formation within the womb, which contributes to fibroids. So yes, when somebody who has fibroids, it's important to know what their vitamin D levels are doing. And it's important for them to think about how, especially if they are low, how to replace that. And we had a lovely example from somebody on TikTok. I don't know if she has fibroids though, but she talked about how her vitamin D levels were low, and she's definitely in the deficiency because she's 20. I think she said she was 20. Her levels were 20. Yeah, and how her doctor is replacing, so he's treating her deficiency state, replacing her vitamin D with a high dose for a 6-week period, which is what we do recommend, after which she should be on a maintenance dose, and she should stay on that maintenance dose. Possibly in another 3 or 6 months, well, usually 3 months, we will check her vitamin D levels to see where she is. Now, for somebody who is looking at, okay, I have fibroids and I'm interested in this method for shrinking, again, having that conversation with your doctor, because we do have a study that says that women within a safe dose of vitamin D, it was a big dose, but it was within the safe recommended dose, was taking vitamin D with B6 and EGCG, and they saw some difference. So there is something, I think there is something worthwhile having a conversation with your doctor and choosing to go down this route if you want to see if it would help in shrinking the fibroids, even helping to reduce the length of blood flow. Like I said, I really analyzed that study in another video, and I just brought it up, you know, the figures here for discussion. So we've looked at some myths. I think I've been bursting some of the myths as we've been going along. Vitamin D is not a quick cure for fibroids. Okay, that study that I presented to you, it was 90 days that they saw those numbers. So another study that has many more people, women of different age groups, women with different types of fibroids, women taking different doses and for different periods of time. That's the kind of information that will help us to say, okay, yeah, we can use vitamin D for this purpose for this amount of time. Okay, so nobody's saying that it works just like that. It can take some time before you begin to see the effect. Another myth is that, oh, the more vitamin D you take, the better. And I think I've just addressed that. That is not true. Taking too much excess amount of vitamin D can be harmful. And please don't be carried away by people that say, oh, I take thousands international units and I've been fine. Don't be carried away by those kind of comments, because we're all different. We're all different positions, we metabolize. That's the most important thing I wanted to say in this live stream. So if that's all you hear, I've done my job. But please bear it in mind that yes, you know, while some people can manage with high doses and they seem to be okay, not everybody is like that. Women in sunny climates don't need to worry about vitamin D. I think I've covered that, so let's not spend too much time on that. The other thing is about vitamin D activation. Just a quick word on that, because I think it's important. Now, here in the UK, when we're replacing vitamin D, so treating somebody who has very low levels or even maintenance, we don't generally say, oh, take magnesium, take vitamin K. And the reason behind that is these are supplements that we feel generally in our diet, in the food, you have enough. So generally, that's the thinking, because I know some people will be wondering, oh, my doctor never said I should take vitamin K. My doctor never said I should take vitamin, let's say, take magnesium. Fair enough. But the thinking is that, especially in the UK where I practice, I've looked at our guidelines about vitamin K, and the thinking is that generally from the food that we eat, we get sufficient vitamin K for our needs. But I do understand someone's concern over what if the vitamin K that I've got is not enough to activate or help to propel vitamin D efficiently. And the UK guidelines do say that the food, what we eat, will give us probably a particular amount, not up to 1 milligram of vitamin K every day. So if that's the case, I think it very well makes sense that, okay, you can supplement what you're eating, your vitamin D with vitamin K, especially if you're someone who has fibroids and you're looking at the potential of vitamin D to help to shrink or reverse the effect of on your fibroids. So magnesium, vitamin K, it's not strictly necessary for everyone. But if you're targeting a particular effect, you're like, I need to push my vitamin D levels in such a way that it does this for my fibroid, it is worthwhile, like I always say, have a conversation with your doctor. Don't forget that some of these drugs may interact with other medicines that you're taking. And it's really important that we are preventing that so that you don't become ill from trying to treat something else, if that makes sense. So magnesium helps your body process vitamin D. You can take them together. Some people do have low magnesium levels, so that can sometimes happen as you can develop low calcium levels. So again, symptoms can be feeling tired or weak, vomiting, and if very low levels, it could actually affect the heart, it could affect the neurological system, you know, so it's important. But the most important magnesium forms, if you are going to go down that route, is magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate, which tends to be easier on the tummy and easier absorbed. And then MK7 for vitamin K, which has longer lasting effects. And again, while we have seen studies that indicate that these are effective, please remember, it's important to sit down with your own doctor to have a conversation over how will this affect me and what kind of monitoring should I have? How long should I be on this before going down the route so that you don't cause harm while trying to solve a problem? So one quick comment on vitamin D during pregnancy, absolutely necessary. Yes, I'm just going to share a slide. I thought I was going to talk a little bit about this, but I think we've covered it already. So we're looking at the recommended dietary allowances for vitamin D. This is from the the US National Institute of Health fact sheet. And you can see that these are recommended daily amounts from childhood, from infanthood, 400, adulthood, 600, and elderly people, 800. And, so I know this would, people who take 10,000, even 40,000 daily, I know they will shout and say, oh, that won't do anything, that won't do anything. And like I've said, we all metabolize differently. By the time we have studies that indicate that across the board, everyone can have higher levels, then we can have such recommendations. We do not at this time. So I will not recommend that you go on such high doses without medical supervision. Please have a look at your national guidelines for what is recommended daily amount. If you think it's low compared to what you've heard, go and sit down with your medical practitioner, have a conversation so that you're doing it safely. Right, what else do I have on my list to make sure I tell you guys before we round up today? I think that's it, really. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much for contributing. What I will do is, once I finish, I hope, if I have some time, later on today is sort of chapter the stream. So if you're watching later on, you can sort of go straight to the bits that you're interested in. But thank you so much for those that, popped in questions or comments. I appreciate that. Thank you to my people on TikTok. And yeah, I appreciate you watching. So guys, I'm back. I will let you know in the community section whether we can make a stream this Sunday. There's a lot going on. We've got a netball game that we're going across to Manchester to watch. So I don't know if we'll be able to make it in time for next Sunday's live stream. I don't even know what natural form that we're supposed to be discussing. Let me see if I can find it. Hang on. Let me see if I can find and let you guys know what we're supposed to be talking about. And so you can come prepared with your questions. If it's not this next Sunday, then it will be the upper Sunday. So let's see. So we've done diet. I'm glad we're ticking off the list. We've done diet. We've done vitamin D, green tea. Oh my goodness, it's green tea. So the next one is green tea, and after that is turmeric. I don't know. Maybe we might put green tea and turmeric together. I don't know. It depends on what my, the research I uncover. Because for me, this is also very, very interesting. This is also, I'm so happy to get information that I can share with, people that come across to me and looking at how can they manage their conditions safer, what's the current thinking. So anyway, that is where we shall call it quits for today. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I hope the rest of your week goes very well. Don't forget to check away AskAwayHealth.org, the website, the YouTube channel for different videos that we're doing. And please, I'm doing a hormone health study. I would really love to get your input into that study. Tell me your experience around hormone health, access to information, access to support about hormone imbalance and so on. If you look on the community posts, maybe in the last couple of days, or I'm going to be sharing some very soon anyway, you will find the link to the survey. Please take a few minutes to complete that survey, to be much appreciated. But thank you so much for being here, guys. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm Dr. Sylvia. I'm so excited. In this video, you'll get excellent health tips that will make a real difference. But that's not all. I also create personalized guides, tools, and plans tailored to your specific needs. These resources will help you reach your goals faster and more effectively. Don't miss out on your free copies. Check out the links in the description box below. Before you watch this video, please like and subscribe to the channel so we can continue this health journey together. So, let's get started. I'll see you in the rest of the video.